Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you guys so much for getting us to our funding goal.
Thank you.
We couldn't have done it without all the support. We've been blown away by not only the support on our campaign and the backers, but sharing on social media. It really means a lot. We could not have made it to this point when we did without all of your help.
Appreciate everything.
I just announced the stretch goal on Wednesday for the white dial. We'll be getting that unlocked at 125% of the funding goal. And so far, I've seen people sharing, so no doubt that we'll get there. Also, we have some rather large reviews dropping next week and beyond before the campaign ends that should help us get comfortably past that goal. At least that's the plan. Today, we're going to go over a question. Jay, if you're watching, this is something he brought up, and it's in regards to movement quality. Everybody's really familiar with the 2824, the SW200, but not as familiar with the upgrades of those movements. So the SW300, and there's basically three families that we're going to cover, and my dad's going to go over the difference in the movements, the cost difference, performance, if any, and why it is that one is seen as a superior movement to the other.
All right. So the initial discussion will be around the SW200 and the 2824, which is the standard movement used in the watch industry for over 30 plus years here. That's old technology. It's proven technology, and it is something that has been manufactured by ETA and Sellita for a long time. Sellita used to be a subcontractor for ETA in this regard until they were able to state, okay, we're on our own and we're going to manufacture movements for our own customers. So the SW200 has four categories: standard, elaborate, top, and COSC Certified. You can have with those categories, you can have the movement, with blue screws. You can have it plated in specific colors. You can have the rotor engraved any way you want. That's all on top of the cost of the movement, and these movements, they run officially somewhere around 75 Swiss francs per movement to 80, depending on what you want in the standard version. If you go higher in quality requirements, then the price goes up quite rapidly. Some other thing that is important to know when you order these movements, you don't get 100% of the movements that are within the tolerance segment that it states it is. So only 95% of the movements are actually within this tolerance. The others are, wherever they are, they're still usable, but some of the purchasers of movements from Sellita or ETA or other companies, they say, well, this movement here doesn't run according to specifications. Then you might have received one of those 5%. That's a possibility. They still can be improved. However, the manufacturer doesn't deem it necessary to do so because they're within the 95% ratio of quality approval. So that said, on the 2824 and the SW200, there are those companies that provide similar products or identical products in dimensions to these two movements. STP is one of them, and Ronda is the other one that have movements that you can just swap. So it's just one-to-one. If you don't have one, you can put the other one in. STP is known to have quite a bit more quality problems than the two aforementioned ones. So a normal yield loss over the warranty cycle is probably 2 to 3%. With STP, you're likely to go 5 to 8% of returns. And this has increased lately because STP has taken on so many new orders. The majority of the components for STP is manufactured in China, though, and they just basically lost on the they have lost the grip on the quality assurance process in their manufacturing site because of it, because of the onslaught of orders that they received. I personally, I stay away from that movement. It's clearly possible that whoever purchases these gets a good batch, but overall, the returns that you have with them is quite a bit higher compared with the other brands. So, having said that, now the upgraded movement available on the market, the SW300 family or the 2890 family, going from 92 all the way up to 98, you have some advantages in packaging, which is quite substantial. Whereas the SW200 and 2824 have a thickness of 4.6, the 300 family series or the 2892 series have a thickness of about a millimeter less, which is quite a bit in ways of being able to package the movement into a watch and make it thinner. Back in the old days, that was, the thinner you can make a mechanical automatic movement, the better the watch will be. So those are the thinnest available movements on the market that are automatic. There's those that are thinner, of course, but you're dealing with in a price segment that you'll never purchase those movements probably, and maybe because you can't, or because you don't have the cost to purchase them. So the 300 series on top of that has additional benefits also, where the tolerances, you cannot even purchase a standard model. It starts with the Elaboré, goes into top, and then the COSC certified movements. And the cost of these movements, if you purchase 1,000 of them, and if you're allowed to purchase 1,000 of them, is about 120, 130 Swiss francs direct. On the gray market, as of beginning of this year, those movements, they floated somewhere between 200 to 220, 230 Swiss francs, which goes up to about $250 US. If you go into the higher quality range, into the top range for the SW300, then the price goes up quite a bit. So a COSC approved movement is if you order it directly, well, you have to order it directly, is over 200 Swiss francs per movement. And then on top of that, if you want special finishing, that is always extra. You can have on the SW200 or 300 and vice versa on the ETA, you can have all of those movements COSC approved or certified, and the accuracy of them is basically the same. What you have, the improvement that you have on the higher or on the thinner movement is that certain manufacturing processes are more closely focused in order to provide additional accuracy in tolerances of pinions, in tolerances of the escapement that you have. But overall, if you want a SW200 COSC certified, you can get it. It's basically the same accuracy as the SW300 in that regard. So can you get with the other movements? Again, let me compare that with STP, because I know of customers or brands that have used STP for COSC certified movements as well, and it's nothing but challenging to do that. They will provide it for you, but you might not want to go that route again. how do they compare with the Japanese movements? The Seiko as well as the citizen movements, the main focus of their movements is on a 21,000 hertz or on a 3 hertz per second ratio. These are considerably cheaper. Miyota has the 9000 series, which is on the same hertz as the SW200, and the price is a little bit cheaper, and it's a very reliable movement, but then again, it's not Swiss made, and that appears to be one of the major requirements for people that love history and love quality and love watchmaking, which deals with all of that. But overall, I would probably put the 9000 series ahead of the STP Swiss made movement on top of that. But other than that, the 200, the 300 series, as well as the 9000 series with reliability, they are really, really good movements, and you can't go wrong with them. The only thing is who has or who wants to use a 300 series movement. Normally that is reserved to watch brands that go over $1,000, probably $1,500 to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and the market doesn't demand as much capacity in that price segment as it is in the lower price segment. So see what you can come up with. We have several of our brands that we know of that we purchase together. We consolidate purchases so we can get better pricing for it. If you have anything under 1,000, you'll be penalized by purchasing these movements. So with Selita it is 500, you get penalized about $7. 300, you get penalized $11. 100, you get penalized somewhere around $20 or $25. And if you go below that, then you won't be happy with the price that you'll get, okay, in any case. So yeah, that's in a nutshell about the differences in the basic differences that you see in those two movements.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception of the SW300, you're automatically going to get better performance out of it, which in the case of not having a standard grade is true, but it's not necessarily going to automatically perform better than an SW200. Overall, probably because they're going to pay more attention to the regulation, but individually, you can find movements that perform exactly the same, especially if you treat it in a way to where it's regulated to be really accurate over time.
Correct. Just the packaging advantage that you have with the SW300, which is quite a bit. That millimeter speaks volume, okay?
Makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference, yes.
Yeah, and it's something we want to do in the future. We want to offer pieces with SW300 in the future to get things thinner. It seems to be a trend. People appreciate thin watches these days more and more. So it's something we're going to visit. We want to offer it in a price range that's lower than standard, as we do with all of our pieces. And it's something that people have reached out to us for, asking us if we'll do it in the future. And we will, not the very near future, but it will be something that will happen. Yeah.
So brace yourself. I mean, in regards with our watch brand, maybe in a year or so, we'll have a limited series with the SW300 or the 2892, which for some this is very important, and we see the importance in the watch world in that regard, where people indicate, well, all of my movements have to have that. The newer movements that ETA is doing now, it's something I didn't indicate it, as well as the other high-end brands. They have it's not the 38 to 42 hours running time that you have in those movements. It's 80 hours going up to 200 hours that they provide with special engineering, And that's where a lot of the focus is, making sure that the power reserve that those movements have increases compared to the standard movements.
Yeah, power reserve is something that people tend to care more about. But like my dad said, doing a limited run of the SW300 versus the SW200 isn't going to mean a lot to some people. It will to others. It's all up to preference. Like the NH35, it's a workhorse of a movement. It'll get the job done, and there's no fault in someone not appreciating the SW300 versus the NH35. Everybody's different, but it's something we do want to provide to those who are interested in movements and the heritage and the performance of the SW300 versus these others. So hopefully that answers your question, Jay. If you guys want to know any more about movements, differences, more of the details behind watches, please let us know. We're happy to talk about this stuff. We have a lot of fun making these videos. I learn a lot right along with you, because these aren't things I necessarily am super versed in, but my dad, he's been around these movements for a long time, so he has plenty of information to share with all of you, and we love sharing these things with you as an audience.
You take care and have a good weekend.
Thank you, guys. Yes. Well, I need to edit it first.
You see Dad has toothpaste on his shirt.
Where? Right here. Oh. The high definition will pick that up real well.
Good.
No. It's the first thing I noticed.
The first thing?
Yes.
Oh, I don't have my glasses on, so I didn't see it.
It's okay.
It'll be okay.